It's official, guys. Barcelona are back as one of Europe's elite football clubs. They have defeated Real Madrid 3-1 in the Supercopa de Espana and have announced themselves to the footballing world as a return to form as the European giants that we all grew up with them as, that we all know them as. And we knew it would come one day. We knew this period of Barcelona banter would sadly come to an end one day, and that day has arrived. It is officially here. Some of us may still cling on to that hope, to that dream of just being able to roast Barcelona for their horrible footballing decisions. I believe those days are past us. So before we actually get into the nitty-gritty details of the actual match, I want to talk about why this game was played in Saudi Arabia. A lot of people have been questioning this, wondering this online, and ultimately money is what it comes down to. The Saudi Arabian government struck a deal with the Royal Spanish Football Federation for $34 million per year to host the Supercopa de Espana in Saudi Arabia until 2029. So for the foreseeable future, that tournament every single year is going to be played in Saudi Arabia. So that is why it was hosted in Riyadh. They're trying to grow the sport, of course, as a lot of us may know if you're following like the BN Sports controversy or the Saudi Arabian joint bid that is imminently coming for the 2030 World Cup. They're trying to grow the sport in Saudi Arabia. They have all of this oil money. A consortium of Saudi Arabian government officials, the royal family, has taken over Newcastle. They are attempting to grow the sport in that part of the world, in their country. So this is another facet of that attempt, another pathway, another stream that they are following there. I don't want to get too political with it with this particular episode because that's not what this episode is about. We're talking about the Supercopa final. We're talking about Real versus Barcelona. We aren't talking about Saudi Arabia and the footballing world. So I don't want to get too much into politics, but let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. I'm really curious as to how everyone else feels about this and would love to do a longer series diving into the geopolitics and FIFA and how those worlds are intersecting at the moment in the modern geopolitical climate. Let's not get it twisted, guys. This is a huge win for Barcelona, and none more so than Xavi. He gets his first trophy as a manager in Spain, which is really important. That first one out the door is really important. You can look at managers like Pochettino, for example, who is a legitimately very good manager in a lot of different ways, tactically, coaching, all these important aspects, man management, important aspects of being a full-time manager. And yet that first trophy, that trophy hurdle is something that's really, really difficult to get over. You can see that with Arteta, where they already have established a winning identity. Pep Guardiola, of course, won trophies in his first season. It is important to win as many trophies as possible early on in your career in order to set yourself up for success. And so Xavi finally has his first trophy in the door into Barcelona's setup now as a manager, and that's really good for him moving forward. It's something to build off of, and there are a lot of good things going on at Barcelona right now. If you actually take a look and follow them, I know they got knocked out of the Champions League, and we've seen all of this talk and rhetoric centering around their financial situation, their financial levers. I don't think this Supercopa is going to activate another lever, but we'll find out in the coming days, won't we? There's all these sorts of reasons to be really positive about Barcelona right now. They're currently top of the table in La Liga, 3 points over Real Madrid. So even if they do lose a match and Real, even if they drop points head to head, they're still going to be top of the table. They have the least goals conceded in Europe right now. They have conceded 6 goals throughout the domestic campaign. That is absolutely insane. Their defense is just working, and I think a large part of that is this purchase of Jules Koundé. He's been absolutely fantastic for them, sliding in at the right side of defense. And Ronald Araujo has been playing right back alongside of him. So they've kind of set up this really strong defensive back three, and they allow their left back, in this case it was Alejandro Balde, to get really further forward to join the attack. It's an interesting setup that they have going here a little bit. You're seeing it a lot in the total football tactical minds of the modern game. So Ten Hag is doing things like this, Arteta, Pep, of course, and that's where Xavi comes from, as he comes from that total football school of thought. Of course, learning under Pep for all those years at Barcelona, under prime Barcelona. A large part of why they have been so defensively solid is that Xavi has found a way to strike balance in this squad. He, of course, is playing Ronald Araujo, Jules Koundé, and Andreas Christensen in this match as kind of three defensive players. They're supposed to do the majority of the defensive work, those three. And I think that there's a lot of synergy, a lot of compatibility, and a lot of chemistry between those three players and their style. Andreas Christensen, for example, is more of a dribbling center half. He's good in the air. He's tall. He's big. He uses his frame well. And he's not particularly good in terms of his distribution. He's not poor, of course. He was playing in the Premier League. But where he really shines is as a ball-carrying center half. Whereas Jules Koundé, on the other hand, is a much better distributor of the ball, can play diagonals from deep, can spray all around the field, and really offers a lot of good vision, a lot of good passing in that build-up play. Ronald Araujo is a little bit of both. He offers a lot of quality moving down that right-handed side. And then, of course, you have Alejandro Balde on the left, who is lightning quick. He is absolutely rapid, one of the paciest players Barcelona has in this current setup outside of Ousmane Dembele. And he offers a lot of verticality. He kind of stands out there on the left wing, and that's his wing. That is his flank. He moves up and down that, which allows Xavi to move inside and play in that half space. Then you have the double pivot of Frenkie de Jong and Sergio Busquets, who offer a lot of ball progression between the two of them, and as well, they offer some defensive stability, a lot of tactical nous in there. So there's a really good balance in this side. Pedri and Gavi, of course, are also absolutely incredible. I mean, they are the two midfielders to watch for the next decade. It's going to be them and Jude Bellingham, who are just absolutely incredible. And the fact that Barcelona has both of these players in their setup at the same time is really impressive. They are the heir incumbents to Xavi and Iniesta, which is really interesting to me that you're seeing both of them playing under, of course, Xavi. It's you can't make this stuff up. You can't write these sorts of things. It's just stuff that it's almost too dramatized for real life, isn't it? So overall, we're seeing a lot of balance in the squad that is enabling a really strong defensive unit to take place. And then they can move the ball forward, get it up to Robert Lewandowski, to Ousmane Dembele, to Gavi, to Rafinha, whoever it is who's playing in this forward line, to get and create goals. Now, I think you can kind of see what I'm talking about here, where they're creating this like defensive three who are really largely important for the defensive duties, as well as Sergio Busquets is doing a lot of the defensive work, particularly in the midfield. Whereas Alejandro Balde on the left-hand side, he pushes forward a little bit. You can see his average position is even in the opponent's half. He moves forward more than Ronald Araujo does in order to create this front line of five, in order to create five attackers in the final third, whereas you have Christensen, Koundé, and Araujo, who kind of stay back and hold their shape in order to provide defensive stability. You have, of course, the double pivot of Frenkie de Jong and Sergio Busquets. Pedri getting forward to play really close with Robert Lewandowski, and I think that's super important. You saw this with Messi, where he and Iniesta, when they had their best moments, they were playing really close, really tight together, occupying a lot of the same positions, so that they could work off of each other, so that they could play together, so to speak. And I think that you're going to see a lot of success if you can get Pedri and Robert Lewandowski close together and get the ball to them in these tight areas and spaces. Gavi, of course, operating in the half space, playing a little bit as kind of like a sort of like box-to-box 8 a little bit, but then also getting further forward. It's a really interesting like hybrid role. I think it's like pretty similar to De Bruyne or a Bernardo Silva sort of role under Pep at Man City, where he is a midfielder, but he's getting forward at the same time. And he and Pedri are both kind of playing that role. Their defensive duties are not neglected, but take a backseat in priority versus moving the ball forward and creating and scoring goals. Here we have a momentum graph, which kind of what it does is it takes a number of different statistics, largely possession, shots on target, important metrics like that to measure which team is in control, which side is in control at any given moment during the match. And you can see that the first half was largely dominated by Barcelona. It wasn't even really close. Real had a little bit right before we went into the break of some shots on goal, and I don't think that they were particularly threatening with any of those, in my personal opinion. And then you again saw that Barcelona came out the half very strong. Again, continuing their dominance. And at that point, once you got to the 60th minute, Real just kind of rolled over. Pedri scored in the 70th, I believe. And then from there, the match was pretty much over. Real didn't really put too much effort in. It was kind of more so about damage control at that point. Benzema did get a late consolation goal in stoppage time. Again, it's just a consolation goal. It doesn't really mean anything. It was just to kind of flatter the scoreline a little bit. So what does this all mean? Are Barcelona actually back? Can they actually compete for titles? Are they returning to Europe as a top club? Yes, in my opinion, yes. They have underlying numbers that match up with their dominance in this match. We're talking about Real Madrid, who are literally the current incumbents of the Champions League. They won the Champions League 6 months ago. This Barcelona team was able to handle them. Not even handle them, they dominated them for 70 minutes. They absolutely ran them off the park. Barcelona, with this match, have announced themselves as returning to the forefront of the world stage of football, of European football. They are really coming back. And I think something that's really interesting to note here is how much youth there is in this side. I know Frankie de Jong feels like he's been around forever, but he's only 25. He still has the better parts of his career ahead of him. You have Ronald Araujo, Jules Koundé, Pedri, Xavi, Alejandro Balde. These are all players who are under 25, under 20 in some of those cases. And I think that this spells real trouble for Real Madrid, as they themselves are kind of undergoing a rebuild. They have a lot of players out of contract in the summer. The likes of Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Fede Valverde, Dani Ceballos, Marco Asensio. There's a lot of midfielders that Real Madrid does not have set to return. Starting next year, starting in the next season. So they themselves are kind of undergoing this rebuild, particularly in the midfield area. They're also going to need to replace Karim Benzema eventually. He is playing really well for them, but eventually they are going to have to find someone who can slot in and fill those shoes, which are not going to be easy to fill. And this really highlights the dichotomy between the two. You can look here, there's a lot of difference in age and experience. Real Madrid are turning over this squad. They're probably going to do it pretty well, would be my guess, which is what Barcelona should have done 3 years ago, is turn the squad over and bring in that next generation, or at least set the next generation up for the best possible success, which they didn't until now. And that's why you're seeing a lot of struggles for Barcelona over the past 18 months. But Real needs to do this turnover, and I think that this match highlights that they are not the top dogs in Spain anymore, that they are old, that they need refreshing, that they need new players to come into this side, fresh faces who want to be Galacticos, who want to dominate world football, whereas Barcelona is ready to seize the opportunity, to jump on that opportunity, grab it by the scruff of the neck, and become the top dogs in Spain again. As good as the job as Xavi has done in turning over this Barcelona squad, there is only one person who deserves the credit, the plaudits for yesterday's performance, and that is none other than Xavi. This kid was incredible, and Xavi himself had nothing but superlatives for the boy, for the youngster, after the match, saying that he has no ceiling, that this player has no ceiling, his potential is unlimited, uncapped. It's hard to argue with him in that regard because he has just looked so good. He was absolutely electric in the World Cup for Spain. He was probably Spain's best player at the World Cup, maybe with the exception of Pedri. And again, he was just on fire with this match yesterday. And he is the reason Barcelona won. He had 1 goal and 2 assists. He had the opening goal and then assisted Robert Lewandowski for his, and then assisted Pedri for his in the second half, in the throes of the second half, when the game was kind of up for grabs, more or less. Xavi was able to come away with an assist, was able to get himself behind the defensive line and then just lay a square ball across for Pedri to finish, and that sealed the deal. That sealed the match for them. And this kid is so good. He is going places. He is absolutely ready to take on the mantle alongside Pedri, with being, the best midfielders in the world for the better part of the next decade if things go according to plan for him and for this Barcelona side. If I'm Real Madrid or a Real Madrid supporter, I am definitely concerned over the next 18 months, in not only in La Liga but in all Spanish competitions, in the Champions League. I am concerned about being overtaken by Barcelona. This is now my number one fear if I am a Real Madrid fan. All right, lads, ladies, and other False Line Show listeners, thank you so much for joining us today and for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. This was an absolutely incredible match, and yesterday was a great day for football all around. So many good games, from the North London derby to PSG and Rennes to, of course, the Spanish Supercopa. There was so much football that was quality football that was on display yesterday. It was a really fun one to watch and break down. So thank you guys so much for joining. And if you enjoyed, if you liked it, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel out, guys, and we're trying to grow. So really take that extra 2 seconds that it takes to just leave a like and comment. Really makes a difference. Aside from that, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you at the next one.